So here we have our first planned cross-training session at Factory Farm. So we've got Yunso who's going to describe to us what is the basic, how does a package like Solidworks work, to what are the basic steps you have to go to just conceptually before we dive into it actually working on it. So Yunso, start that little discussion about 5 minutes or so.
New file, new part. Okay. Then you'll be placed into a 3D plane, like 3D Cartesian plane, and then you click extrude boss, which means you're going to have an area. So you're going to sketch an area, and then you're going to extrude a volume from that area, right? So if you click extrude boss, it'll give you an option to select one of 3 planes, top, front, or side, I believe, and you say click top. And then you'll be placed into a 2D plane, and you'll be in sketch mode, because sketch mode is what you use for drawing out areas in the 2D plane. And you use things like center rectangles or corner rectangles or circles, and you've drawn out an area. So say you're trying to make a shaft coupling, right? Then you click circle, and then you put your cursor onto the origin of the sketch plane, then you drag it out. And then you're like, whoa, I have a circle. And then you click Smart Dimension. Then Smart Dimension is what you use to change the radius and all the settings of the shapes you're making. So Smart Dimension, click on the circle, and then it'll give you like a pop-up thing, and it's like, fill in a value. And you're like, oh, okay. So I fill out 10, and then the radius will be set at 10. Then enter, and then the circle radius will adjust to be 10. You're like, ah. So you have a circle with radius 10 right now on the 2D sketch plane. And then you're like, oh, but a shaft coupling also has a hole in the middle, right? So you're like, okay, let's make another circle. Click on the origin, and then drag, and then click, and then you have another circle, but this circle is undefined, so you have to click...
Is that from the same point, or you just started...
From the same origin.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And then click Smart Dimension again, set the radius of this circle to be like 5, so the radius 5 circle now. So we have a circle with radius 10 and circle with radius 5. And now you have the area between those 2 circles, right? Like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you click Exit Sketch, it'll prompt you to select the length of the volume that you're extruding out from that kind of shaft coupling circular thing, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you say, okay, 40 millimeters, and then enter. And then it'll extrude that circular kind of thing up by 40 millimeters, and you'll get a shaft coupling shape.
Mm-hmm. So that is tutorial 101 on getting 3D extrusions. What's the next level of complexity here? So assemblies. Assemblies,
okay. So say you have a bunch of, let's keep it simple. So you have 2 shaft couplings, right? 2 kind of little circular things that pop up like a volume. And then you open Solidworks, and you're like, new file, new assembly, okay. And then you do insert components, and then it'll give you a file searcher, and then you search for your shaft coupling wherever it is on your computer, and then you click shaft coupling, okay. And then wherever you put your cursor, you'll see your shaft coupling right there. So you're like, oh, and then you click, and then you can do the same thing, insert components, find shaft coupling, then click again, and eventually you'll see 2 shaft couplings in the 3D kind of space, right? And now the important part with the assemblies is not only getting the components in the space, but mating them together, right? Positioning them relative to one another. So what you do now is mate, and then you click on one end of the shaft coupling, and then you have one face selected, and then you click on another face of the other shaft coupling, and the 2 faces will first coincide like that. So you clicked on one, if this is the shaft coupling and this is the other shaft coupling, you've clicked on one face, and then you've clicked on another face, and when you mate them together, you actually start off like that, right? And you don't want this kind of weird double volume thing, so there's actually an option that says reverse mate solution, and then it'll do like, right? Because the 2 faces that are supposed to mate together can mate together in 2 possible ways.
Yes.
Like this or like that.
Yes.
Now, there's the additional feature of different kind of mating styles, where you can do things like distance apart, and if you click the distance apart symbol, and all these symbols are nicely visualized so that it's pretty obvious which one you're clicking on. So you'll see like 2 lines with arrows going apart, and you're like, oh, that has to be distance apart. And it'll prompt you for a value, say 10 millimeters, you put into it and enter, and then it'll space away those 2 shaft couplings by 10 millimeters, and you'll have an assembly, right? Save assembly, or export assembly as JPG, and you'll have a picture of your little shaft couplings with spaced apart 10 millimeters.
Excellent. So now we've learned to make parts, make assemblies. What about next making the actual 2D fabrication drawings?
Aha. So thing about 2D fabrication drawings is you want to open the file you want to make a 2D fabrication drawing out of first, because
Would it be the assembly or just individual parts?
It can be, well, 2D fabrication drawing usually you need to make it out of part, but you can also take some of the images of assemblies. But for now, let's stick simple and do for parts only. So say you have the shaft coupling you made up again in an open file shaft coupling, and you got your shaft coupling there. Now you click new 2D fabrication drawing, and then it'll give you a new interface with like a white paper 2D sketch plane, and at the side, at the right side, you'll have all these toolbars. If you click one of them, it'll give you a drop-down menu where you can select the parts that are open in Solidworks right now. And because we opened the shaft coupling before the part, you can click shaft coupling there, and you gotta wait for it to load all the picture images, and then below in the right-hand side, you'll see all the images like top view, front view, isometric view. So you just click one of those images of your shaft coupling and drag it onto the 2D paper plane, and then you'll have the image right there, right? But the important part about 2D fabrication drawings is you want the dimensions to be apparent, right? So let's assume we take one of those images, we've placed it on the 2D sketch plane, say it's the top view, which means that we'll have those two circles that we've drawn before. Now you click Smart Dimension again, and then you just click on the circle and it automatically gives you the radius or diameter. You click Smart Dimension again, or you just keep it on that mode. You click the inner circle and it'll give you the radius of that, and you click again and it'll show that. So 10 millimeters, 5 millimeters, bam, you're good. And now export as PDF or export as DXF, or you're good.
How do you fill in the title block?
Title block. That actually gets a bit more complex because you have to deal with some settings at the left-hand side, but it requires going into the interface to really figure it out.
What else remains? Isometric drawings.
Isometric
Tell us about
drawings.
isometric drawings.
Now, when you select at the right-hand side your part, say shaft coupling, it loads all these images that you can drag and drop into your 2D paper, right? So one of them will be isometric, and another one of them will be the 3D image in a 2D plane, kind of like just whatever, any kind of 3D shape you see on the computer. It's actually 2D, but with lines to make it look like 3D, right? So it'll give you that kind of view based on what angle that your part was set at when you opened it. So in fact, if you open your part, the shaft coupling, and then you click rotate, move component, rotate, and then you rotate it like this, and now open your drawing again, when it loads the images, it'll load this image positioned like this. If you go back to your part and rotate it like that, when you come back to your drawing, it'll be like that. So through this kind of rotation thing, you can set different 3D views, but it's a bit non-ergonomic, so we'll probably want better ways to do that.
And for exploded part diagrams, do we know that yet?
Not yet.
Okay, not yet. And bills of materials, any clear way to do that yet?
Bill of materials, no, not yet.
Okay. Thank you, Yunso.
Great.